Hi, I'm Tina Bondurant, and I am one of the state program managers for the Bureau of Transportation Safety. Today, I will be presenting to you the training you would have normally received in person out in the different regions. This year's training will be a slightly different format as I will be walking you through live in WISE grants. Though you do not see them today, our grants team is made up of state program managers, regional program managers, and our management team. I will show you later on in the training where you can find their contact information if you do not already have so. Also, bear with me as this is one of the first times I've done a full training and recorded it, so hopefully this will go all right. We're going to start with grants 411, just a little bit of information for you. Federal grant years start on October 1st and end September 30th. Our impaired driving, seatbelt, and child safety grants will be pushed to the targeted agencies in August. Some of you may have received your parts of your grants already. Speed grants will be pushed out around March. Any other non-targeted grants will be available once BOTS has received confirmation of funding. It typically takes us about 3 weeks to process a grant application. It may take longer for incomplete applications. Grant activity cannot start until October 1st. After October 1st, please do not start activity until your grant has been approved or active, or you have been notified by BOTS to begin. If you ever have any questions or concerns or need assistance with WISE grants, please feel free to contact your SPM or RPM. We'd much rather help you than have you struggle out in the regions. Start. So today I will be presenting to you as if I were a project coordinator, and so I will see everything the way you see it. The grant that I will be using has been used for other testing, so I'll show you that there's stop signs already, but that won't show up when you start your grant. But I'm going to start here on the main page. You will see that there's contact information here. That happens to be my contact information. I've been providing assistance to people on how to navigate through WISE grants for some time. So if you cannot get a hold of your SPM or RPM, please feel free to contact me. If your agency has a new user that's going to be starting, the easiest way to get them into the system is clicking here where it says new user. That way they can assign themselves a username and password, and we don't have to assign it for them. The only thing we do ask is if you do this, please contact your SPM so that they can add you to the agency and any necessary reports and grants, because the system does not notify us that this has happened. Also, there is the forgot password here. You can use that. My suggestion is to use it only during after hours, normal business hours, because this goes directly to our software company that houses WISE grants for us, and so you're beholden to their time frame. If it's during normal business hours, please contact your SPM or RPM. They can reset your password fairly simply and very quickly, and it doesn't take very long at all. So I'm going to log in as my project coordinator, me. If I can put the right password in. All right, every time you log in, you start at the home screen, and you can tell you're on the home screen because that's the tab that is yellow here. It will tell you your name, what your current role is. Here at View Available Opportunities, this is where you're going to find anything that pertains to mobilizations. So our Click It or Ticket and our 2 Drive Sobers. Once a project coordinator with your agency has initiated that report, the opportunity will go away. You only get one report per agency per mobilization. My inbox that you see here are system messages that are generated by the system. Most of them go to your normal email address also. So this is just another repository for those messages. The My Tasks is listed here. Again, it's a shortcut to anything that you need to have completed. I will say that it can get confusing for any agency that has multiple grants because it does not list what monthly report is associated to the alcohol grant versus the seatbelt grant versus a speed grant. So you might end up with 3 April reports. Then from there, the other two items I would like to point out is that the blue bars will be across the top on any page that you're on. You can navigate to those at any time. The other part that is on top is always these white links here. We do ask that you at least once a year go to the My Organization link and update any information that has changed with your agency's address, phone numbers, if you get a new chief, all those different kinds of information. And you can go to the My Profile link, and that you can then update any of your information. If you want to change your password because you changed your most commonly used password somewhere else and you want it to be the same, if you get a new phone number, new address, any of those kind of things, you would find in the My Profile link. Myself, if I were to log in as my state program manager and put in 2021, I would get all the grants for that whole year. So currently for 2020, there's upwards of 500 grants, and I would get a list of all of those. But because I am logged in like I am a state program, or I'm sorry, project coordinator, when I hit search for 2021, it is only going to give me the 3 grants that is associated with my test agency. And today I will be using Rockdale Police Department, which is not a true police department. It is a true village, but it is not a true police department. And so to go to whatever grant that I have of it current that I need to work on. And I can tell that I need to work on this grant because it's telling me that it's in process. These other 2 grants have already been submitted, so that means they're off my plate and they're on to someone else to review. So I just need to click on the grant name. And once I get into the grant, in years past, it used to give us the menu pages. We've changed the navigation slightly. So now you can see that I'm in this grant, which happens to be an impaired driving enforcement grant. And the reason I know that is because it says it right down here. Later on in the grant year, if I were to log into this, I would see that it is impaired driving grant, that it has a grant amount to it, and who my assigned SPM is. But currently, I just want to fill out the forms so that I can start this process. You can navigate to those forms by either just hovering over the forms menu, and it gives you all the forms. And if I were to click on or navigate down, I could enter each one of them just by clicking. Or if I click on Forms menu, it takes me to that menu and I can see all the items that I need to complete in one page. Looking at this screen, I need to fill out everything between these 2 gray bars and everything in these 2 gray bars. Everything else from administrative section, that is for bots staff. You don't have to worry about that. That's for us. And then supporting documentation is a repository or a filing cabinet for miscellaneous documents. This is also where we ask you to upload your signature page and your operations plan if you're a task force. So I'm going to start at the very beginning. and start at my general information page. You'll notice that I clicked on that page on the menu page. That's how I got here. And so now I just need to fill out anything with a red asterisk. And so my municipality is a village. I am in Dane County. My enforcement area, my task force has decided that we're going to use the whole township of Christiana as our deployment area. I am then also going to fill out my information because I am project coordinator. And you'll see that I have a lot of this pre-filled only because I've already done this once or twice as a practice. So I hopefully won't waste your time too much by having to type. So one of the important things that you need to remember on each of our pages is that there is an I agree button on all the pages that you must do before you submit, which is a way for us to know that you have read the information on the page and that you agree to whatever information is there. In this case, I'm agreeing to the fact that all of this information is up to date and correct. To navigate forward in the grant system, as I'm filling this out, you must save each page before you move to the next. You can either save it, which saves the page and lets you know that you have completed the information correctly, or you can hit Save Next, which saves your information and takes you to the very next page in the line of forms, which from where the general page, I come to the problem identification and project justification. If you were to look at the forms menu, you would see we were at general information, now we're at problem identification. As most of you have known, this information up here on the top is, sorry, lost my notes, is how it explains how we use the data to do targeting. It's 3 years worth of information. The one nice, and it's stagnant and it's part of all of the different grants. So impaired driving has all the same information. Seatbelt grants have all the same information. The targeting is explained. It also gives you the link to community maps. I highly suggest if you have not used community maps, sorry, that you do so. It is a very helpful tool. So then down here we have the RPM, SPM notes. You'll notice that it's grayed out. That means as a project coordinator, I can't do anything with this information, but it has helpful information in it. It tells you that the RPM knows that this was an OWI enforcement grant, and they're going to list on here the members that we believe are going to be part of this task force. If for some reason these are not the agencies that are going to be participating, we ask that you add that right here in the activity description box. And and then there's the other information in here. It's going to tell you how much your grant is actually eligible for. You can use up to that dollar amount. You cannot go over. That is what your grant is budgeted for. The new item that we are now asking for is a problem statement. We're going to ask you to add that problem statement also to the activity box. So in this case, my task force members are correct, so I don't need to make a change there. But now I need to do a problem statement. And a simple problem statement actually answers 3 questions. Those 3 questions are, what is the problem? How are we going to try to fix the problem? And how will we see if the solution is working? So my example, and again, I'm cutting and pasting, so I'm not going to be wasting your time typing, but my answer to those 3 questions is, over the last 3 years in our area, there were a total of 40 impaired driving related crashes reported, resulting in 2 fatalities and 17 injuries. The task force will focus deployments on roadways most impacted by these crashes to reduce the number of impaired drivers to ultimately reduce the number of related crashes. The task force will frequently monitor community maps and crash data, adjusting deployments based on the data. I've covered the 3 questions. I am now ready to go on to the rest of the grant. So I'm going to come down here and click I agree. And again, you're agreeing to the terms and conditions as written above. And this time I'm going to hit Save Next. And so it will automatically save my page and move me to the next page. If there had been an error on that page, it would not have moved me. It would have come up with a red stop sign at the top of the page. So our next page is our project objectives and evaluations. These are additional grant agreements and have special or specific deployment or deliverables are reported. It will also show the frequency of our planned stops. I'm going to go with 45. That is what historically most of our agencies have used, but base it off of your task force's historical information. And then there's this text box down here, and what we're asking for in this is special deployment locations, special deployments, such as for an alcohol grant. Normally it's 6 p.m. to 4 a.m. is the deployment time, but because of our area, we know that there's quite a bit of travel to and from Badger games and to and from Packer games. So we are going to ask that we have earlier deployments on Packer home game days, because we know that there's going to be drinking involved and tailgating, and so we're going to ask that we do a special deployment, earlier deployments on those days. So we would write something in there. What else? Anything that might affect the work plan. So say we know that 2 of our agencies are really small, so they're only going to be participating on scheduled deployments that are on weekends. Then we would know that 2 of the 4 agencies are going to deploy one time on Saturdays and Sundays. All 4 agencies are going to deploy. So in this case, not going to waste time typing, but I agree, and I'm going to hit save. So this time, again, I hit save because I wanted you to see what it looks like. Again, that this information was correct, and I get the little green light. So now I'm going to go to next. And the policy requirements page is the next page that comes up. So the policy requirement page lists important information regarding the grant. Please read through this information carefully. This list just gives you a summary of the policy requirements for the grant. To see them in full, you would need to go to your general contract terms, and everything is spelled out in legalese, and all the other pertinent information is listed there. You will need to fill out the appropriate boxes here when it comes to single audit requirements. If you do not know the answers to these questions, don't guess. Please contact your treasurer. I guarantee you they will know the answer to this. Single audit requirements come into play is if your entity uses $500 or $750,000 in federal funds during your fiscal year. You are then required to participate in a single audit. So again, please ask your treasurer if you don't know the answer. I know the answer to this, that our small little villages do not, it's not applicable. We do not have to do it. So I'm clicking here. I am then going to say that I am taking this training, and by watching this video today, you are getting the training. And I'm going to say online, and I'm going to add today's date. And I am going to say that I agree to the terms and conditions above because I read through the items and I answered the questions here, and I'm going to hit save next. So the next page is your work plan page, and about the very first part of the page has your federal grant information, information about how that you're adding this information to the terms and conditions of the grant. Also, that it tells you that because you're getting these funds, that we expect you to participate in the required mobilizations. These are the dates for the mobilizations in 2021 grant year, and that it gives you a link to go back to that view available opportunities page so you can sign up if you need to. This is an alcohol enforcement grant, so again, it indicates that the times appropriate for deployments are 6 p.m. to 4:30 a.m. So this is the part that controls a lot of the rest of the grant. So my agencies and I got together. We discussed our deployments, what was feasible for all four of our deployment or 4 agencies, and we decided in October and November we were going to do 2 deployments for 4 hours each, and two officers per agency. So we're going to fill that out. We know that the snow starts flying in Wisconsin, and that it might not be able to happen 2 deployments each time. So we're only going to do 1 deployment in December and January, and still 4 hours each with all of our agent officers. We're going to do that in February. In March, we know the weather starts getting better, so we're going to go back to the 2 deployments for 4 hours each and 8 officers. We're going to do that in April also. We know in May we start having more vacations. So in May, we're going to do 2 deployments, 4 hours each. But instead of 8 officers, we're going to go down to only having 1 officer per deployment in May and in June. But we know in July, August, and September, we have a lot of traffic through our area, vacationing and such. So we're going to go to 3 deployments, 4 hours, and back up to our 8 officers per deployment. We're going to do that in July, August, and September. And we know that this was our capacity and we talked about it. So the one really great thing about this page is that after you put in your hourly wage or average hourly wage, which this is the only time you can use an average. Once you go to sending in your reimbursements, you must give us the actual rate for each officer is involved in the deployments. But after I put that in, I click agree here and I hit save. It is going to come up and tell me that with what we put in, our grant amount will be $43,648. Now, in this circumstance, we were offered $100,000 to do these deployments, but this is our capacity. This is our true capacity of what we can do. We had a discussion about our work plan, and that's what it is. After seeing that and talking about it a little more, our agencies decided that we want to shorten, well, actually, hold that. Let's say that I was only given $42,000 to be able to deploy. Well, then we're going to go up here. We would have to go up here and say, let's go down to 2 and only 4 officers in September, and hit resave. And that adjusted our time below the the dollar amount that was allowed. So from here, I can hit, since I had already hit save and I'm done with the page, I can hit next and go on to the next page. The next page is the budget page. The system brings forward the dollar amount from the work plan page and puts it automatically here. Your responsibility at this point, if you're not changing anything more, is to come up with the 25% match. And sorry, I should have had this calculated ahead of time. So my 25% match at $9,920. And when we were talking together, we are going to use straight time hours to match a majority of this. So we're going to say $8,000 we're going to be able to do in straight time, and we're going to do $2,000 worth of mileage. The Christiana Township is spread out over a couple of miles, so when anybody's traveling around, they'll be using mileage for those deployments. I then hit I agree and I hit save. So at this point, if I were filling out my grant and realized that I did something wrong on the work plan page, I can go backwards. And to do that, I can just go to Forms menu, go back to the work plan page, and then go down and I can change anything in here that I want to change. So we're going to go back to the 3 deployments in September and all 8 officers. And we've decided that with back to school, we are going to do 1 extra deployment in October also. So I hit save on my work plan page. And if you remember, I'd already saved the budget page. So I had gotten the green light and everything was okay. So why it's not saving, there we go. I'm now resaving my work plan page because I want to add those new deployments. If I were just to go on to the end of the grant from here, my budget page would be wrong, and I will show you why. So I saved my work plan page, but now if you will notice, the dollar amount from previous is still down here. And the reason it's still down here is because I haven't resaved this page. So I'm going to hit save. And now, because I didn't do anything other than just hit save, it's now giving me the error telling me, oh, you no longer meet your 25% match. So I'm going to have to go in here and I'm going to add another $1,000 worth of mileage and hit save. Oh, still don't. Let's see. And now we're good to go because I have the green light again. So as a reminder, if at any time during the review or during the application process you change the work plan page, you must come back and readjust your budget page and resave it so that all the dollar amounts match from beginning to end. So now we're going to move on to the next page. And this is our deliverables page. And like I said, if you don't know earlier, if you don't know who your RPM or SPM are, you right here can click on the links and show, and it will bring up your regional RPMs and your regional SPMs. It's a color-coded map, and you'll be able to see who you belong to. Other than that, it gives you information about your requirements for match, that all your forms must be submitted through WISE grants, your signature page and operation plan must be attached under supporting documents. It gives you our mailing address. From there, I'm going to agree to both of these items. The first one being that I agree that I will not start grant activity until the grant is active or I have been notified by bots that I can begin. I'm going to agree to the terms and conditions above, and I'm going to hit save. So at this point, we are almost done completing the grant application. The easiest way to complete the other couple of items is to go up here to Forms menu. And you'll see that as I was going through and saving everything, it logged when I saved it. So if you remember, I saved the work plan page, then I went back in and saved it later. It registers that we went in once, twice on both the budget page and the work plan page. From here, I just need to complete these two items and upload my supporting documentation. So we're going to go into the general contract terms. The general contract terms, as I explained when I was on the policy requirements page, are the full written agreements of all of the terms of the contract. For audit and maintenance of material, monitoring, payments of funds, equipment if it's applicable, and it just goes back through general costs of government, allowable costs, and it just keeps going. And at the very end is an I agree button. By clicking this, it is telling us that you have read and understood all of the agreements listed, and that is part of your contract. You would hit save. And we are done with that. So now I go back to Forms menu, and I need to do a printable signature page. So you may wonder why you've just agreed to the contract terms, but you may wonder why we're asking you to do print and agree to those same terms once again. And the reason is you as a project coordinator may not have signing authority with your agency. So we are asking that you print the signature page and take it to someone with signing authority so that they know that you have signed up for a grant and that you've agreed to do all of these things, and they're then giving their support that they are, yes, also going to agree to all the terms and conditions of the grant, and that they agree that you can run with this this enforcement grant. So once I've uploaded this, printed, and had it signed, I am going to come down to supporting documentation. And under supporting documentation, I am going to do choose file. And I saved this to my desktop, and I want to upload it. Right now it looks like it's there, but it's truly not uploaded to Wise Grants. To upload it completely, I would need to hit save. And then you will notice that it has been uploaded here. The only other thing that we would need to upload to this grant is an operations plan. So in just a moment, I will show you what a generic operations plan looks like, and then I will upload it. Before I do that, I do want to go over a couple of things. On your work plan page, one of the items that you are agreeing to as an agency is that you are agreeing that this enforcement grant is going to be a high visibility enforcement and follow the HVE model. The three main elements of an HVE are multiple agencies working on the same day and time, and with a media component to educate the public. The part that I really want to stress is single officer and single agency deployments will require a justification added to your monthly activity reports. This is an item that we have talked about over the last couple of years, and I just want to stress it to you now, is that, again, single officer and single agency deployments will require a justification added to the monthly activity report. When we get to that portion of the training, I'll show you how simple it is, and really it doesn't take any more additional time for you, but it's something that we are asking for. I'm going to move to the operations plan so that you can see a copy of that. All right, so a generic operations plan. You will notice, and just so you know, when you receive your grant, your RPM will have uploaded a copy of this generic plan onto supporting documents, so you can open it from there and edit it as needed, then save it, and then upload the new saved document. But the one nice thing is we've gone through and we've highlighted anything that needs to be edited. So your task force name, the law enforcement agencies, who is administering them, and then who's participating, and what your primary goal for this task force is. In this case, it would be impaired driving. If you're going to be looking for other other enforcement types while doing the primary, I will tell you that a lot of people just put that the primary is impaired driving and additional is their seatbelt and speed. And then if they're on their seatbelt or speed grant, seatbelt is the primary, OWI and speed are the secondary or additional. We're going to ask that you then give us the locations of your deployments and your dates. If you have them assigned ahead of time, great, add them to here. If you don't have them assigned, we just ask you that you tell us when you plan to assign those dates or how you plan to schedule those dates. So if that means at the beginning of every month, all agencies are going to meet and schedule the dates ahead of time, or you're going to do it quarterly, just give us how you plan to come up with those dates. For the Southeast region, I will state that a lot of the task forces in those areas tend to follow pretty closely to the greater regional task force dates that get assigned, I believe, twice a year. That's also an option as what you can use in that area. Then from there, you'll notice that we have all of this other language, but then down here, there is all this language. And if you were paying attention, all of these items are exactly what was in the terms and conditions or contract terms of what you agreed to just moments before. And the reason is that all of these terms and this grant not only apply to the agency that is administering the grant, but it also applies to all subgrantees, so anybody participating in this grant. So this is one of the reasons that we ask you to do an operations plan, because not only are you telling us that great information about where you're deploying and on what dates, so we know that all the task force members agree to those, but we're also using this as a way to know that all the grantees involved, whether they're actually receiving or administering the grant or just participating in that task force, know these terms and conditions and that they apply to them. And then we come down to a signature page. So in this day and age of COVID, we understand that meeting face-to-face may not be a possibility, or at least maybe not as frequently as you were able to do in the past. So if that means we need or get multiple copies of this form with each agency signing it and then you compiling it, that is perfectly fine. If that means the only way you could accomplish it is to take a picture of it and email it to somebody, a JPEG works, a PDF works. This happens to be a Word document. Uploading the Word document, that works too. We understand that these are different times and sometimes we need to adjust to that. So if you are having difficulty, please just contact your SPM or your RPM. They can help you figure out a way to make this happen. And I am going to stop sharing this and go back to the grant. All right, so I am back at my grant and I have completed my signature page and I've gotten all my signatures on my operations plan. And so now I am going to go and I'm going to upload both the operations plan to my supporting documents because I already have my signature page there. Remember where I saved it at? And again, it's not 100% updated yet, so I'm going to hit save. And now it's uploaded. So I'm going to go back here to my Forms menu. And I'm going to make sure I have all my stuff in my supporting documents. I have my general contract terms. I filled out all the different sections of the grant application. At this point in time, I am ready to submit my grant. And to do that, all I need to go is up to this change status. I can either click on it or hover down and select what I would like. There's two options. One is to forfeit. That's unfortunate if you are just went through all this work and now your board comes back and says, we're just not eligible or able to do that enforcement this year. You could actually hit forfeit. But we've done the work, our board agrees, our chief agrees, and we're going to submit this grant. At this point, if there was any other information that you would like us to know about, you could type it in this box, but I don't have anything else to say, so I'm going to hit I agree. At this point, I am done. I have submitted my grant, and I'm going to show you a quick tool on how you can, at any given time, look at the status of your grant and know where it's going. For one, if you click on details here, it will bring up this information, and it's going to, and you know it's your information because it has your organization and that you're the project coordinator. And then it's also going to give you the current status right here. And it says that it's submitted. So I know I submitted it. But the other way to see this is if you go to Management Tools and you scroll down and you do Status History, you're going to see whatever status it is and if there's any notes involved. So grant application in process, that was when it was initiated, and now I just submitted it. I'm going to quickly show you that one of our other grants, so now all three of my grants have been submitted. I happen to know that this OWI grant, I submitted and I got it back from the SPM. And I can see that by going again to Management Tools, Status History, and you'll see that there it gives you all the different items that have happened. So originally it was sent to me. I submitted it. From there, my SPM, Tanya, sent it back to me because I hadn't done my operations plan and I forgot to submit or upload it to supporting documents. So I went back into the grant. I uploaded my operations plan and I resubmitted it. And I put a note on it, have added a copy of the operations plan to supporting documents. And currently that's, she hasn't reviewed it yet from there, but that's the new status. So I can look at it at any given time to see what is happening. So we've reviewed submitting a grant and doing that portion. Because this is a brand new grant year and technically our grant activity reports don't become available until the first part of October. I can't show you a real 2021 activity report, but I can tell you that they have not changed since 2020. And so what I'm going to show you now, I'm going to stop sharing my screen again and move to screenshots of an activity report. I have erased the names of the agency that submitted this. I'm showing this to you because it meets all the information that we would like on an activity report. It's not the only way to do an activity report. It's not the best way to do the activity report. It's not the worst way to do an activity report. It just meets all the requirements that we ask for. So that's why I'm showing it to you. So again, if we were to go into, we're in the grant and it's in the grant season, I'm opening my activity report. The very first thing that you'll see when you've clicked on your May report is you get the activity report menu screen. On here is all the things that you need to complete before you can submit. So you need to be able to complete an activity report, you need to complete the summary report, and you need to complete the reimbursement claim. If you were to go back in later and look at this report, you'll get any information that is listed on that activity report listed there. At this point, your grant is submitted. It's going to get reviewed. At some point in time, you're going to get a notification telling you, congratulations, your grant has been approved and you now can go ahead and start activity. Unfortunately, I do not have a 2021 activity report to show you because they don't actually become active until October when the grant year begins, but you would be able to find all of your grant monthly activity reports if you were to go up here and click on related documents. Once the grant is active, it will start showing them monthly. They show up on the 5th of every month. They're just system generated. You don't have to do anything. They just show up on the 5th of every month, and they're there for you to use. So because I can't show you one right now, I have gotten permission to show you an activity report that one of my grantees did for me. So in a normal grant year, I'd click on here and then I would scroll down and find the month that I wanted. And in this case, it's going to be May. And again, bear with me as I switch screens. Now that I have went to my related documents, I've clicked on my May report. When I get to May, I'm going to click on the Forms menu, and when I get to Forms menu, this is what I'm going to see. And this is what you need. These 3 items here are what you need to complete every time you do a activity report for enforcement. You need to do the actual activity report, you need to save the summary page, and then you need to complete a reimbursement claim. The reason that I asked this agency if I could use their items is they give me everything that I need in its most simple form. I've seen a lot more elaborate ones, and but this one, it's just very cut and dry and very easy for me to show you that you are getting, or they are giving me what I need to be able to approve this grant. So I would click on this activity report when I get to that screen, and I'm very sorry that this is small, but hopefully you'll be able to get the gist of it. But this agency happens to give me one activity report for the whole month. So for the whole month of May, this is all of their activity as in one totaled page, but they give me the date. They happen to pick the 1st of the month. You could pick the 30th of the month if you're doing one report. And then they give me the time frames that all of their deployments happened in. Then they told me that 13 officers deployed in this month for 58 hours of reimbursable time. There is no match time on this one. I happen to pick a May report, so more than likely they've already hit their match for the year. So that is why there's no match here. And then they give me the total of the citations. Then they come down here and they give me a description of what happened. This is also where you're going to put any kind of description that if you had a single officer deployment or a single agency deployment, you must give us a justification. If there's not a justification, your SPM will probably reach out to you either by sending the report back and asking you to fill out this part, or sending you an email asking you about a couple of things. Then what they'll do is take that email correspondence and add it to the grant as the justification. Then if there's anything exciting, different that you would like to tell us about, I've seen things like officer was involved in a hit and run, officer was taken off of deployments because of a high-speed chase, officer while doing an OWI stop found narcotics, all sorts of different things we've seen in here. But if there's nothing out of the ordinary that you want to tell us, you can leave it blank. This agency happens to upload right here for me a copy of their Google Doc, so I can then also look at all the citations by officer, by date, by time, and it's all there. I'm going to show you that then from here, this is their wage and fringe document, and the reason I'm showing it you here now is because we would take this wage and fringe document and we verify it against the activity report to make sure everything what the officer said here makes sense here. But so normally we get to oh, and I'm sorry, I skipped a step. So activity report is done. It is saved. Next step would be to go to your summary report. That summary report needs to be just verified and saved. But if during while you're doing your activity report, if you change something on your main activity report, say you changed this from 13 officers to 20 officers, and save the activity report, you will need to go back in and save the summary report again, because otherwise you'll get an error at the end. So it's just a mechanism to show that you know that what you entered is correct. And it may not make a lot of sense for the agencies that are only submitting one activity report, but for the agencies that submit multiple activity reports, looking at that summary page and making sure that it makes sense for what you just entered, it's a very helpful tool. So then we would be going down to the last part, which is the reimbursement claim. And so on the reimbursement claim, we are looking at not only this dollar amount, but so we're going to your wage and fringe documentation should show that that matches, and that's you would upload your wage and fringe document here. And I'm showing this agency not only because their wage and fringe document, this is what we need. We need the dates of deployment. We need the type of deployment. We need some kind of distinguishing information about the agent or the officer. So whether that's the first name, last name, some agencies will give us their badge numbers, anything that makes it distinguishable from one officer to the next. And then it lists the officers or the agencies involved. So I can see that on the 22nd, officers from agency A, B, C, D, and E all deployed on the 22nd. They were all during all overtime hours, their rates, how many hours they actually worked, and their total pay. Now, this total pay can include your fringe, or you can use fringe as a match item. So that is up to your agencies and what you all decide as task force members. So, but just so that you can see that I would be verifying the dollar amounts, the hours worked, being able to see that who worked when. so that I can make sure that the activity reports and the reimbursement request all match to what is being requested. Once all of that is done and saved, then so you've done your activity report, you've done your summary report, and you've done your reimbursement claim, you can then submit that monthly report. And actually with that, we are done with the training. So I want to remind you yet again that if you are ever stuck with anything, with any question, any navigation, please contact your SPM or your RPM. If you cannot get a hold of them and you're not one of my agencies, please feel free to get a hold of me. My contact information is on the login screen. We would much rather walk you through for 5 minutes on something than have you sit and struggle for an hour out in the field. Your time is way more important than that. So I once again thank you for being our partners and helping us reduce the number of crashes in Wisconsin. So thank you and have a great day.